Hello, it's your financial friend Maggie. Welcome to the Inside Out Money Podcast.
Hey, Erica.
Hey, Maggie. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. I love the crossover we just had. Erica showed up a little bit early to a podcast that Liz and I were recording, but we were actually done. We were kind of saying goodbye, and then Erica pops on, and I was like, oh, look at this. We should talk about something as a group.
I know, I kind of felt bad. It was like inadvertently walking in on someone in the bathroom when they haven't locked their door or something. Like I was like, oh no, I should not be here.
We had our pants on, and we were not using the restroom, so not exactly. But we had just finished talking about, honestly can't even remember what we just talked about.
Well, way to be in the present moment with me then.
Very much. And for those of you who are wondering what present moment we're in, hello and welcome to Inside Out Money. This is a personal finance podcast focused on redefining wealth from the inside out. Each week, and sometimes in one day, I speak with a rotating set of co-hosts about a different financial topic to help you improve your financial mindset and tactics. Today, we have co-host Erica here. And if you are feeling like you're always one purchase away from happiness, this episode might be for you. We're going to flip the script on consumer culture and explore how a mindset of wanting what you already have is one of the most powerful financial tools that you might not be using. It is not about giving everything up. It is about gaining perspective and appreciation for all that you already have. And what a great tool that can be to help you appreciate where you are and kind of curb the ongoing, treadmill of constantly wanting more and more and more.
Yeah, I think this is very important because in a world that's constantly telling us to want more, we often overlook what we already have and the wealth we've built into the life we have. And so, as you and I like to focus on in this podcast, the mindset shift, which is important, it helps reduce the financial stress and boost savings and brings a new level of joy and purpose to our personal finance journeys.
Yeah, I was actually recently reading The Art of Spending Money by Morgan Housel, and there was a number of things that he was talking about in that book that were reminding me of this topic. But this is, I sometimes can't even remember what I'm reading and what I'm consuming, but I lately have been just thinking about what I already have and just a level of gratitude and appreciation for it, because I have so much. And I know you, Erica, you have so much. We have many of the same things, right? We have a roof over our head in a safe neighborhood. We have generally healthy kids. We have enough money that we're not stressed about putting, food on the table for ourselves and our families. And also we have all sorts of toys and extra superfluous things in our life that make our lives easier, right? We were talking about tutors for our kids even when Erica was just in town 2 days ago. Yeah. And we actually did not record while you were in town because you were busy while you were here. We both were, but we got some nice hangout time in. And we were having a long conversation about just a bunch of kids stuff and talking about tutoring, and we can afford to pay for tutors to help kids, and we both got kids in public school, so it feels doesn't actually feel like as big of an expense to even have to pay for a tutor at times. But it's just I think we often can get so caught up in this very, very consumer-driven world we live in, where we are just bombarded with ads. The social media feeds. Are you still off social media, Erica?
I'm sometimes on Instagram now, but okay. I've implored that rule of not buying anything that's advertised to me on social media.
I have used that rule literally 10 times in the past, I think, week, of things I've seen where I've been well, actually, this might be an exception to the rule. And I'm no. And I close it and move on. I actually have to close it at the time and just be I'm getting out of here. It is constant, right? It's constant to ourselves, our kids. There's this keeping up with the Joneses, and it just creates this constant cycle of wanting. And we are constantly told and given subtle and incredibly direct messages that our current life is incomplete or not as happy as it could be without the next cool vacation, the next, an Instagrammable vacation, the next cool gadget. This, I think about like gadgets in particular are like a lot of the types of things that I am marketed to on Instagram. And you know what's interesting? I can like specifically remember that there's a bunch of ads that have been targeted to me in the last week of things where I have thought, oh, this would be nice. This would make my life better. This would whatever. Right now in this moment, Erica, I mean, I just told you I couldn't even remember what Liz and I just talked about. I can't remember what those ads were even for.
Yeah.
Which is a sign of many things.
Well, it's also probably, I mean, aside from your, general memory malfunctions.
Yes.
It's also a sign of it was multiple things coming at you. So think about that. You want this thing, then the next thing comes at you. You want that thing. And people take the bait for all those things. And then you end up with just a house full of things.
Yeah.
So it goes to the illusion of more and not even wanting more, just needing more, feeling like you need it. And then that just snowballs into its own negative cycle. But it really just takes away from why we're here and why people who listen to this podcast are here is you want your financial freedom and giving into those temptations, which we talk about all the time. We are so horrible at doing that. Mm-hmm. But being able to recognize, like, is this going to be the thing that makes me happy? Or is switching my mindset of like, I have a lot.
Yeah.
Like you think about, say someone loses everything in a fire, but everyone escapes and they're safe. When you're in that moment, and this is like a tragic example to give, but when you're in that moment, you're like, at least we're all safe.
Yeah.
That's what matters most. And I don't want to say you have to go to these dark references or examples just to like be like, no, but what I have is great. But, we have a lot of people, especially in America, have a lot, and we can have more by wanting what we already have and being appreciative for what we already have.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I was just reading this article that was in the newsletter Tangle, which gives like kind of like political updates from both sides. But it was actually a reader essay about the wildfires in Malibu. And it was from someone who lost their entire house and everything they owned. And she was kind of talking about like what she learned through that experience. And the article she wrote was titled "The Fire That Took My Home and Restored My Faith in How Society Works." And she was very complimentary of like the cleanup effort and just kind of the few things she was actually able to get out of like literally the rubble of what was left, which was like something made out of stone because everything else burned. And yeah, certainly when you have like an extreme situation like that, I think you immediately overnight gain the perspective of what we are talking about today. But without something like that, it is very natural, and we are all prone to fall to that illusion of wanting more and more and more. And the issue or the cost is not just about like the money spent on more and more and more. It's the mental and emotional toll of constantly chasing something that we feel like we don't have. It leads to more debt, more stress, and really just like a lack of gratitude for what is already sitting in front of us. And this is something like, this is the sort of episode and discussion where it's almost like helpful to like go back and re-listen to it like once a month,
Yeah.
Because it is normal that we will forget this message and we need these reminders. And I think, that often is the purpose of many of the Inside Out Money podcast episodes, right? Is these are reminders. Like, we know deep down, many of you already know and believe this stuff, but we need reminders because we live in the reality of the world we live in today, and we're constantly getting bombarded with other reminders that are making us believe we do need more.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that you're saying we need the reminders of this is a good point because the more you do it, the easier it becomes to have that mind. It doesn't even become a mindset shift, it becomes your mindset. So the more you are present in being aware and grateful for what you already have, you become less complacent. Contentment is not something you seek. It will be something that you embody. It's an active choice. And then you get to appreciate your current financial position and then the progress and what you already have.
Yeah, I love, I think the word contentment is so powerful. And to some people, it could imply some level of complacent complacency, but I don't think so. I think it's like what you said, Erica, which is it is about being present. And I sometimes like to look up like the true definition of a word, right? Content is a state of peaceful happiness, a state of satisfaction. It's also a member of the British House of Lords who votes for a particular motion is actually called a content. Didn't know that. But anyways, there's all of these benefits. If you could get to a place of being content, there's all of these like very practical benefits of it, right? Like when you're not constantly spending on, the next big thing, you're able to save more. You're able to direct more towards your financial goals. Could be building out an emergency fund, could be maxing out your retirement fund, could be saving for, a down payment on a new house. And you're also able to pay off more debt, right? So less consumer spending means less reliance on credit cards, less reliance on loans. You're able to accelerate the path that I hope you were on towards becoming debt-free, because it is a great path to be on. And just ultimately, like back to the definition of contentment, there's like more joy and less stress. There's a ton of studies that show how contentment and gratitude are directly linked to your overall happiness. So this is not just this isn't like a fluffy topic, right? It is really, I believe, and I think, Erica believes too, right? It is a key to living a richer life. Like unlocking this mindset shift, to be clear, of like appreciating and wanting what you already have versus constantly seeking something that you don't yet have.
Yeah, what I was looking up actually was a quote about gratitude and fear, which can be masked as anxiety as well, that gratitude and fear cannot coexist. So if you have fears and anxiety about your finances, and you shift that mindset to gratitude, that will override. It should. There's a neurological effect that kind of goes on there. When you feel grateful, your brain releases neurotransmitters associated with happiness and contentment. And so if you find, we've talked about gratitude practices on here. If you find ways to create a small gratitude practice daily, that will trigger your brain to release dopamine and serotonin, which will then minimize the effect of fear and anxiety that you might have over your finances, that then helps soothe that mindset around the wanting of more.
That's very interesting. I definitely, think back to times when I had some level of like fear and bag lady syndrome around money, and just think about, how my mindset has shifted over the years as I've gained more confidence and just appreciation and gratitude and contentment for all that I have versus worrying about what could happen or what I don't have. And to be clear, I have an awful lot. And I'm not saying that in a bragging way. I'm saying that from a place of gratitude. Like I sometimes am just incredibly aware. I'm always grateful, but sometimes I'm like extra aware of how grateful I am and how much privilege I have had, coming from a place when I didn't necessarily think I was privileged as a kid, because I didn't have that world perspective yet. And I was actually talking to one of my kids about this the other day when we were driving, and I was really trying to it's hard when it's a kid because you're not like trying to make them feel bad, but you also want them to like appreciate all they have. And I was like having a very real discussion of like, do you recognize how much privilege and advantages and things you have in this world that like many people don't have? And I think she actually did, as much as she can, right? As much as you can with the, perspective you have as a 13-year-old. But it is, I think it's just a really important topic, and important to like get right with yourself and also with your kids and family.
It's interesting that you bring up that conversation with your kids, because I don't think that my parents didn't not talk with me about money. Like I definitely knew like you have to work hard for it. But, and I can't say whether this was just growing up in Atlanta or like people growing up anywhere, but it felt like the definition of success in Atlanta was having like a big house and like fancy cars and the things that maybe was a product of the time that we grew up in. But driving through those neighborhoods of the houses, I used to think like, oh my gosh, what type of person lives there? And seeing it now, my thought just shifted to like, oh my gosh, how much random stuff do they have in there? Like, if they move, what do they do with all that? Like, are they using all those rooms? Like,
How much are their taxes?
Yeah, do they furnish? How many couches do they have to buy for that? And so there was something that, like, where I thought I was supposed to want more, the idea of more panicked me, of like, I don't want to have all those things because then I have to do something with it. Maybe it's the lazy person in me, or like,
I think it's the overwhelmed person in you of like,
yeah.
I some days can like barely deal with what I already have in front of me, let alone the thought of more, which is a whole nother angle for like, recognizing your contentment is just recognizing you're overwhelmed perhaps can stop some of the like wanting a whole different angle, and like wanting what you already have is realizing your life is already quite full physically and emotionally, and the idea of more just overflows it, right? Fills it up with like, it's like when people talk about the additional weight of bringing in like a new item into your home. Every time you buy something, it's like you have to then maintain that thing. You have to deal with when it's broken or there's issues, or if you have to go return it if it doesn't work out. Like there's this whole additional tax that comes when you own one product. It's not just that one product.
Yeah. I mean, that pretty much sums up what I'm thinking, what I also need to think about when I move forward on this. Like even with Halloween coming up, it's like I don't want to spend money on something that's going to just sit or go to a landfill. And, I don't want to not dress up because I love it. But at the same time, my values are kind of showing their true face here. And unless it's like there's like $150 full Alf costume that I felt like was an investment.
Oh my God. I haven't thought about that show in a really... Are you like still thinking about that? Have you seen it?
I mean, if it can get here by this weekend, yeah, I don't know. But like, I know that's like, see, this is where like I just like blow everything. Like I'm full of shit. Like everything I've talked about is like just out the window because I'm like, yeah, all this is like so unnecessary unless it's a full body Alf mascot costume.
Well, you're not full of shit. You're like most people, right? You're trying. I'm trying. I'm trying to buy less things from Instagram ads because I've made some bad choices from Instagram ads, and it's created I go through this whole return mess, and then it just adds all this complexity in my life, and I'm starting to realize it and learn from it. So, and that Alf costume might be the right thing for you too. So anyways, let's shift to some I just really keep thinking about the show Alf. Like I have not thought about that show in a really long time. I used to love it.
I tried to get my kids to watch it and they were like, what is this? And I was like, okay, you're not wrong, but like it's also amazing. Okay, can I split the difference and just get the adult overhead Alf mask? I feel like yes.
I'm just forget the costume. I'm back to like the concept of the show Alf.
Yeah.
Like I want to show it to my kids tonight and just be like, just give me like one word for it.
Oh, yeah, please do that and then text me immediately. Yeah.
Do you know what ALF stands for?
Alien life form.
I don't think I like knew that or remember that. By the way, guys, in case you're like, what are you talking about? Erica and I are both in our, I think we can call it mid-40s. As of last week, you're in your mid-40s, God. Erica. I know. Congratulations. It was an American television show. It aired on NBC from 1986 to 1990. And the main character was an Alf, which was like this big, I don't even know how to... He wasn't actually big, was he?
Yeah, no, he was small.
He was small, but he was an alien life form. He was super goofy. I don't even know how to describe him. He looked like a teddy bear and a pig and a something else all made something together.
An aardvark.
An aardvark. That's a good one. Anyways, I was like 6 to 10 when that show was on, and I remember it fondly.
I'm not going to buy the Alf costume or the mask because the reviews are terrible and people posted pictures of what it looks like, and it looks like a child's worst nightmare. So, Financial problem solved. Still have no Halloween costume.
You could. I saw someone that was it was a husband and wife, and they just had shirts on them that said 6 and 7.
Oh, God. No, I think I've got something.
Okay. We're gonna move on from Alf.
Yeah.
And we're gonna shift to some actionable steps to help you practice wanting what you already have. Yeah?
Yeah, we are. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, we are. One of the things we've already mentioned briefly on this episode is having a financial gratitude list. So getting in the habit and having some practice, whether it's, each week jotting down 3 things that you're grateful for, or I'd even say like every day jotting down 3 things that you're grateful for that you already own or have already paid for. And so examples could be, I'm really grateful for, it was like a colder than average fall day in Atlanta this morning. And I have this like super soft hoodie on that just makes me feel really good and warm. I have a fully paid off car, and I had a delicious meal that I cooked last night, like soy chorizo quinoa chili that I made. And I was able to cook that with groceries I already had in my house. And it was a delicious meal. And then it made me lunch today. It was delicious and high in protein, which I'm very focused on lately. And those would be like examples of things that I'm very grateful for today. And recognizing that I have those things I'm already grateful for reminds me I don't need more. And back to the point I was making about those studies, just as an example, there have been actual studies that show that gratitude practices can change the neuroplasticity in your brain, which means like essentially rewire your brain. And they've shown the brain's response to gratitude. So it basically showed that regularly practicing gratitude can actually strengthen and rewire the neural pathways associated with positive emotions, making happiness and contentment more accessible over time. And there's a ton of studies like this. So I'm just quoting one of them. And they also, some of them actually show that, gratitude practices can reduce stress hormones, improve your sleep, reduce toxic emotions, all sorts of other benefits, in addition to the financial benefits, which are they make you appreciate and want what you already have and have less feelings of constantly wanting more new. What's the word for like the excitement of something new?
The dopamine hit from it.
Yeah. Did we do an episode on dopamine?
We did do an episode on that. And to just give an example, because I'm sure there are probably some people who are like, okay, this is ridiculous that there are studies about gratitude changing the brain. Like, how is gratitude a science? Well, think about in the yogic world that goes back like thousands and thousands of years. There is a term in yoga practice called santosha, which is contentment. That is a word that goes back forever of people who look at the most content people or the people who kind of have just the right amount. They don't need more. You can find that, and often those are the people who are the most giving and generous too, which I find is a very interesting just fact. And so when you want less, you recognize how much you have. You might also be compelled to give more. And I think that's a really nice piece of it too. But I would say when you're making your gratitude list and, you have that helps with the neuroplasticity of your brain. Another actionable step is when you are in a situation where you're looking at something that you're purchasing, ask yourself why you're buying it. This might be where the rubber ducking comes in. Why am I buying this?
Yeah.
Check in with yourself. Are you doing it, if it's non-essential? Are you doing it because you genuinely need it? Or does it feel like, I should have this, I should want this? And maybe, this is where Maggie and I come in a lot, where we're just I just want it, I'm not even going to think about it.
Yeah.
But then that could, lead to regret. But that pause and creating that little bit of space there, it could leave you with more money in your bank account, and over time that bank account will grow of things with money instead of just things in your house that pile up.
Yeah. And you and I, Erica, have done a lot of episodes where we talk about just specific tips for buying less, and I'll put a link in the show notes to some of those episodes. And the thing you mentioned of even just putting some space between the impulse to buy something and then actually buying it, this asking yourself why you're buying it, kind of check in, it does that, like you said. And it gives you a moment to appreciate what you do already have. And again, we're suggesting this on non-essential purchases. I'm not suggesting you do this in the grocery store when you're buying an apple. right? Like you're buying the apple because you're hungry and you want to eat an apple. Well, I hope that's the reason at least. I think about like, this maybe isn't the best example, but like I actually just bought this and I'm questioning if I need it, but I bought some spray that you put on your shoes that, protects them from like getting stained, and my kids are
that's
always
a good investment.
Well, it is for some things, but then I'm also like, why do I care if my shoes are dirty? Right? Like, well, it's why am I buying this? You're going through the whys. So maybe it is maybe in the end I get to the point where I'm like, oh, actually that kind of matters to me. It'll make me keep a pair of shoes longer or whatever. My kids do care about their shoes being clean. And I'm talking about like a pair of running shoes, sometimes when you have like a pair of Uggs or something, like, yeah, you want them to, not look terrible and they get like water stains and things all over them. And so that's why you go through this. Like, why am I buying this? To protect my shoes. Why do I want to protect my shoes? I love the like Simon Sinek, like 5 whys. You got to keep asking why. Why do I want to protect my shoes? Because if I don't, they'll get dirty. Why do I care that my shoes are dirty? Well, because I like to present myself a certain way. Why do I care about that? You're right. And so again, you might get to a point where you're okay with it. But on some things, especially things that I'm like targeted on Instagram, I'd say I'd hit some walls when I start asking myself this. Like, I'm like, oh, I'm just buying it because I like want it. And I can't really give you like a concrete answer, Okay. Another actionable step to focus on wanting what you already have is back to the word why, refocusing on your own why, right? Reconnecting with your own long-term financial goals. Why you care about money in the first place, right? Why you're trying to save more money, why you're trying to pay off debt, whatever it might be. Getting back to that why can make it easier to resist the, immediate unnecessary spending and to really, reshift your mindset and like quit looking outside at the new things you want and spend more time looking inside at all the things that are already in your home. And I think that can be a powerful thing. And again, we've talked about this on many episodes. Some people know their why. Some people have a big, bold, bodacious why. Sometimes it's just that they want to feel less stress about money and they want to feel more in control of your life. Like your why doesn't have to be something that's, big and wild. It might just be something like, I want to be able to spend more time with my kids. I want to be able to deal with a job loss and not be stressed about it. And I think refocusing on that and specifically your, short and long-term financial goals can really help with this.
Yeah, I think that's that's like we've done a whole episode on the why, but it is the biggest thing, just remind yourself of why you're listening to this podcast, why you're on this financial journey. Does what you're about to purchase hurt or harm that, harm or help that journey?
Yeah. And then, one of the last actionable steps is remembering that you can fix things and like the power of maintenance. So I know everybody's different, but I find like great joy when I realize I can actually fix something instead of having to like buy something new. And so figure out ways to make what you have last longer. It could be that spray I was just talking about, right, for shoes. It could be that you're repairing a broken item. It could be even just, not necessarily fixing things, but just maintaining things better. So it might just be organizing and maintaining your closet better. Sometimes when I feel like I need more clothes, it's just because my closet's a mess and I don't really know where, what I actually have. I haven't like truly literally taken inventory of what I already have. And I think that can really remind you and kind of help you appreciate what you already own. And honestly, on that note, I know I sort of just said this, but just to like double click on it, taking inventory of what you have can be incredibly powerful. There's people who have suggested this actually coming out of like the house fire thing of people saying you should actually like keep an inventory of everything you own and like details about it and even taking videos of stuff. And I've actually I've had this on my to-do list for like probably 15 years to like create a detailed home inventory and like literally put everything I own in a spreadsheet. Because I think the exercise, I kind of want to make this like early retirement project. This is the sort of crap that only somebody who's early retired would have time to do, as you look at me like that, Erica.
It sounds so overwhelming to me, which is like probably a sign that I have too much stuff.
Well, that's kind of why I want to do it, because I know I have too much stuff. So the thought of having to write everything down, it's like the opposite of the gratitude list, or not the opposite, but it's like the spirit of having to write it all down. Write down count and write down how many t-shirts I own, or how many pairs of jeans I own, or how many pairs of shoes I own, or what camping equipment I own. Like something about that exercise of really having a detailed inventory. I mean, I think when people suggest this, like for insurance reasons, they're talking about like stuff you own that's of higher value. So like more expensive jewelry, or like music equipment, or different family heirlooms, or other stuff like that. But I think this would be a fascinating exercise to do with like everything you own. Like maybe it would further incentivize me to get rid of pens. I mean, if I had to tell you how many like dry erase markers or pens, or I don't know, it's probably it's like a number that I don't want to even say out loud.
And then once you've gotten rid of all those things, you think twice when you're like, do I need more dry erase markers?
Yeah. Well, and if I'm having trouble getting rid of those things, which is a whole different topic, I think it would just make me appreciate, like, I've already got a ton of stuff. Do I really need more? And, another thing that is helpful for at least someone like me is I often say that I am overwhelmed by just stuff in my house, not just my kids' stuff, but my own stuff too. And I want less stuff, and I want to declutter, and I think I've been trying to like declutter. I'm not a minimalist. I'm an aspiring minimalist, right? And I have been for probably a big chunk of my life. Remembering that I'm constantly overwhelmed by all this stuff is important, because it should motivate me to not want more of it. Yet I still on a daily basis am bombarded with all the stuff we were talking about. So I go through this cycle of like, I've got too much stuff. This is overwhelming. Then I see something and I'm like, well, that looks really cool. That looks like that. I should add that into my collection of overwhelming things in this house. And it's a constant struggle, and it is a constant focus, right? Like it's not, there's no like one-time fix to this, right? Like the idea of kind of wanting what you already have it's a mindset shift that you can improve and build upon over time. But I think it's normal to constantly have to like remind yourself, back at the beginning when we said like this might be the sort of episode where like you want to listen to it once a month. It's normal, right? Like as long as we're living in this world and getting exposed to all of these temptations all around us, it's going to be normal that we're going to want stuff.
Yeah, and you can't just shut yourself in your house and be like, oh, this is all I need. This is my stuff. You just have to, I mean, not just, I don't like that word, but it's important to utilize this practice so that you continue to grow and get better at it. And that goes for us along with everybody else, but it is a practice, and it has a valuable payoff in the end.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's a good way to wrap this up, Erica, is, the payoff is that if you can, like we said in the very beginning, flip the script on this consumer culture and explore and invest and cultivate this mindset of wanting what you already have, wanting and appreciating what you already have, it is incredibly powerful. And it will help you to have the perspective and the discipline to acquire fewer things, which in turn is spending less money and helping your finances. And I hope hearing a discussion like this and realizing that, look, like I don't want to say we all struggle with this, right? Because you and I talk about, Erica, I think, I take someone like Andrew as an example. He struggles with this less than I think you and I do. We're all on a spectrum of how much we struggle with this, right? But most people in the world, I would say, struggle with this. And I think my biggest takeaway probably is just the gratitude piece, right? The more I can like kind of constantly reshift back to having and showing and like writing down and verbalizing gratitude for what I already have. And not just the idea of like generically being gracious for things, because I have that, but literally being specific about what I'm gracious for in a given day, I think can really help to shift your mindset to, like we said, want what you already have. Because most people listening to this podcast probably already have an awful lot of stuff, not just physical stuff, but like,
you have riches. Yeah, you have riches in your life that come in many shapes and forms, and
exactly.
We can take those for granted.
Yeah. Okay. I actually honestly, even just having this discussion with you gives me another 24 hours of appreciating what I already have.
Yeah, me too. I appreciated this topic, and thank you all for listening, because we know your time is limited and valuable, and we appreciate you spending some of it with us. So if you've enjoyed today's episode, please give us a written review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. We truly appreciate it.
Yeah, and we always love it if you want to share this episode with a friend or family member. This is actually like a great dinner conversation topic, right? We're in the holidays. You're probably seeing friends and family even more than usual. Like, send them this podcast in advance and say, this would be like an interesting thing to talk about the next time we get together. I'm like not a big fan of small talk. So I think sometimes it can be fun to like have a specific topic where you send it to some people and say like, hey, I really want to talk about this at dinner. And look, you listen to us on like 1.5 times speed. You're in and out of this episode in 20 minutes,
Yeah, we've alleviated the small talk for you.
And then also you can always subscribe to this wherever you listen to podcasts. If you have any thoughts or questions, we always love to hear from you, and you can leave us a voicemail or text us at 404-981-3370, or you can hit us up on Instagram.
All right. Thanks, Maggie. Thanks for this fun topic today.
Yeah. Thanks, Erica. Bye.
Bye.